everyone, this is Ian and I just wanted to go over a quick tutorial with you about how to access your settings in Zoom. Accessing the Zoom settings is important for piano students and teachers because we want to be able to change the audio settings and configure the audio so that we can actually hear the piano and not just people's voices. Zoom is automatically programmed to cut out background noise. And essentially what happens when you're in a piano lesson is it turns down the piano. So when I'm trying to listen to my students, I hear the beginning of the piano and then all of a sudden the volume goes down. Whereas, anything that anytime they're talking, I can usually hear it, a little bit better. And it's fine to cut out the background noise. It's not fine to cut out the piano because that's why we're online, is for our lesson. So this is how a student would be accessing Zoom typically, is if you have the Zoom desktop client. I'm on Windows. This is Windows 10. There's my shortcut to Zoom. So if I'm a student and I'm opening Zoom, I'm going to click on that or double click on it. And what I want you to notice is if I don't have an account, if I'm not signed in to some account like I would be as a teacher, the only two options that you're going to see when Zoom opens is either join a meeting or sign in. So that's all well and good. If you have a Zoom account and you sign in, you're going to see, the settings option where you can get into the audio and video settings very easily. But for students, it's less obvious because that's the only two things you're going to see in this window is join a meeting or sign in. So if you're instructing your students to look up in the top right corner and go here for settings, etc. Well, they're not seeing that. They're just seeing this window. So what they need to do is actually go down to the bottom right corner of the screen. This is called the taskbar in Windows. And in particular, this is the system tray. So if you see this little arrow, show hidden icons, Zoom puts an icon in there. And it looks exactly like the shortcut that we saw on the desktop earlier. And if you right click on that, you're going to get some other options, including the settings. So if you click on settings, that opens the actual settings window, and then we can get into the audio settings and adjust what we need to adjust. Okay, so once you open up the settings in Zoom, you're actually going to get this little pop-up window, which says settings. It might take a minute, by the way, just depending on how complicated your actual audio and video is on your computer. But typically when it first comes up, it's in the general tab here, and you'll have to click on audio to get into the audio settings. These are also covered in lots of other tutorials. But essentially, you want to set up your speaker to be whatever the main output of your computer. For most people, that's just going to be your speakers. The microphone usually is just whatever your computer's default microphone is. And you can test the mic here. This is really important. You can see the little blue level going from left to right. You don't want that to be all the way to the right, FYI. You don't want it to go all the way to the right, and you want to make sure there is something showing up. Otherwise, it's either too quiet or it could be too loud. Play your piano and actually see how loud it gets when you're playing it. And you might need to adjust this volume here and make it lower or higher. You want to keep it around 75%, both when you're talking and when the piano is playing, no more. Uncheck automatically adjust volume. We don't want that. So that's one of the first settings that you're going to change. Usually this is checked. You're going to uncheck it. Okay, so that's it for this area. You can ignore this stuff down here. Advanced. If you click on Advanced, you're going to get this next window. And this very first option here to show the in-meeting option to enable original sound from microphone, we want this. So this is enable original sound. That means we don't want the sound that is processed by Zoom software. We want the original sound. Whatever you're actually playing, whatever you're hearing, is what I want to hear as a teacher. So that includes your piano, that includes your voice. Unfortunately, that includes any other background noises as well, but that's fine. That's the compromise. So, but what this is if you check this, you're going to have a little button show up on your main Zoom window that will allow you to turn that on and off with the click of one button, and then you don't have to come back in these settings, in the future. So check that, then go down here to audio processing. As I told you earlier, it thinks that the piano is a background noise. So where it says suppress persistent background noise, if that's enabled, your piano gets turned down. So we want to go ahead and just change that to disable. You can see there's a little drop down. Make sure it's on disable. Also suppress intermittent background noise, disable. And echo cancellation, I usually just leave this on auto. And when you're done, just click the X to close this window, and you're done. Once we enable original sound in the settings, and then we jump into another Zoom meeting, you're going to notice that there's a little blue button up here in the top left corner. And this is a little confusing. It actually says turn off original sound. So just think about this. If you click this button, it's saying it's going to turn off original sound. That's because original sound is enabled. You already enabled it in the settings just a minute ago. So to click this button will essentially turn it off, so it's gray. So when you do that, you're back in the original mode that Zoom defaults to. And for those of you that use Zoom for other things besides piano lessons, you may want this. You may want to turn that back to its original setting so that it cuts out the background noise and you can clearly hear, voices only. But when you go to your piano lesson, click the button, turn it, enable original sound again, and then the button will be blue. And that'll make sure that I can hear your piano.